Welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Matt.
I'm Winnie.
And today we're looking at day 2 of our story, Jane Eyre.
Our main gal.
That's right. So Jane Eyre is the main character in this story, which is named after her. And we learned that she, had a very harsh childhood.
Yeah.
She lived with a woman who did not treat her well, and she just didn't have a good childhood at all. But she still grew up to be a strong and principled young woman.
Yeah, and this actually led her to be employed by one Mr. Rochester. He employed her to come work at his huge mansion, and there she actually met one of her new BFFs, her friend Adele, the singer?
Not the singer, but it's actually her student, right? She's teaching Adele.
Yes.
Okay, and then one day she'd still not met her boss at this new
That's quite normal
mansion.
back in the day. You don't really meet the head guy, right?
Until she saw a man fall off his horse and helped him to get back on the horse.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be her boss, Mr. Rochester.
Yeah, and she didn't know, but from that situation blossomed a beautiful friendship. And happily ever after, except suddenly he starts to act a little strange.
Well, not just friendships, it started to turn into love. So they're already falling in love, but yes, there are strange things happening in the mansion, and Jane feels that Mr. Rochester is hiding something.
And for all we know, he could have murdered someone. But I don't know. Well, I still think he might be a good guy. I don't know. Who knows? Well, we will find out. This is Jane Eyre, Day 2.
One day, Rochester proposed to Jane in the garden, and while shocked, she accepted. However, their wedding was interrupted when a lawyer announced that Rochester was already married. His wife, Bertha, a woman who suffered from severe mental illness, had been hidden away in the attic for years. Rochester had been forced into the marriage in his youth and now lived in torment. Though he begged Jane to stay with him, she refused to become his mistress and fled. Alone and in poverty, Jane was eventually taken in by kind strangers who were actually her cousins. She soon inherited a fortune from a long-lost uncle and shared it with them. Jane finally had the independence and belongings she had long wished for.
All right, it's time to get into day 2 of Jane Eyre and find out what's going on here.
Let's see what happens. One day, Rochester proposed to Jane in the garden, and while shocked, she accepted.
Yes, that's nice. So they're going to get married.
Yes, and it's a happy occasion.
All right. However, their wedding was interrupted when a lawyer announced that Rochester was already married.
Oh, dun dun dun.
All right. So all of this
I knew it.
that he was hiding something. Well, maybe he was hiding that he's already married, and it took until the wedding to find out.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. That's right before the rings go on and the bride and groom kiss, the lawyer's just like, wait! I don't know if that's how
So not so romantic after all.
No, and I kind of don't really like this Mr. Rochester anymore. Okay, so continuing on. His wife, Bertha, a woman who suffered from severe mental illness, had been hidden away in the attic for years. Okay, I told you this. I knew it. There was something creepy. Okay, maybe not a ghost, but it was secrets. There were secrets. There was someone living in the attic.
There's a secret person in the attic. That is strange and kind of creepy.
Yeah, that is kind of creepy. Okay, so we have the word severe, or adjective. It just means something very serious or very strong. And in this case, we're talking about a very severe mental illness. She's not doing so well, okay? And so they just hide her in the attic. Of course, we have this example sentence, the fall caused severe pain in his left foot. So we're talking pain is right here. Severe pain is even worse. So Bertha, his current wife, isn't doing so well, but instead of, caring for her, loving her, he just hides her in the attic with the rest of his probably old bowling trophies.
I don't know how popular bowling was, but whether Mr. Rochester was a bowler or not, but yes, it's not good to hide someone who's part of your family in the attic.
Let alone marry someone else.
That's true. Well, let's go to Hanny and we'll find out what happens after.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny， 今天要继续读 Jane Eyre 的故事。有一天，庄园主人 Edward Rochester 在花园里向 Jane 求婚，虽然感到震惊，他还是接受了。不过，他们的婚礼被中途打断，一位律师宣布 Edward Rochester 早就已经结婚了。那他的妻子 Bertha 是一位罹患严重精神疾病的女子，多年来她一直被藏在阁楼里。听到这里，老师们用 creepy 来形容 creepy，creepy 就是形容令人毛骨悚然的或是怪异的。而单字 severe 它是形容严重的、剧烈的或是严峻的。这边还有一个重点是 while 加上分词 VING 或 PP， 也就是分词构句的用法。while 在引导副词子句主词跟主要子句的主词相同时，可以把这个副词子句的主词省略，把动词改分词来形成分词构句。主动的话是用现在分词 VING， 被动的话是用过去分词 PP。我们这边看两个例句。I found an old picture while cleaning my drawers. 我在整理抽屉时发现了一张旧照片。句子里面 while 是表达在时，就相当于 when。第二个例句是 While shocked, he tried to stay calm and not overreact. 虽然感到震惊，但他还是努力保持冷静，不让自己反应过度。这时候句子里面的 while 它是表达虽然，就相当于 although。那我们接着回到课文中。
All right, well, thank you, Hanny. So let's get back to the story. Rochester had been forced into the marriage in his youth and now lived in torment. So lived in torment would mean he's just very unhappy. He's tormented. He's in pain and he doesn't feel good about this because he was forced into the marriage. Though he begged Jane to stay with him, she refused to become his mistress and fled.
Good for you, honey.
All right, so the word in there, fled, is the past tense of the verb to flee. And to flee means to run away from something or to get away from something as quickly as you can. So, for example, maybe if someone robs a bank, they will try to flee the country, try to escape the country as quickly as they can.
Right.
Or another example sentence, many people have fled the area since the fire started.
All right, continuing on with the article. Alone and in poverty, Jane was eventually taken in by kind strangers who were actually her cousins. So, of course, Jane didn't end up marrying Mr. Rochester, but that also means she doesn't have a job. She has nowhere to go. But thankfully, someone saved her. And we have the word eventually. That means something that happens after some time. Even if it takes a while, eventually, it means it's going to happen. So, for example, Nick eventually solved the problem with a lot of help. So, Nick maybe spent a lot of time trying to solve a problem, but at the end, he did get there. And when we're talking about Jane, she probably had a really rough time on the streets, but thankfully her cousins, helped her out.
Strangers, so she by chance was taken in by people who turned out to be her cousin.
Yeah, she should buy a lottery ticket.
Yes, I think so. All right, back to the story. She soon inherited a fortune from a long-lost uncle and shared it with them. Them being her cousins. So she inherited, meaning she got money after someone else passed away or died. They left her with a fortune, which just means a lot of money or valuable things.
Yeah.
Jane finally had the independence and belonging she had long wished for.
I guess in a way she won the lottery. She just didn't have to buy a ticket.
Pretty much, yeah. So you were right. Yeah, she should have, she didn't need to buy a lottery ticket because she just seems to be getting very lucky in her adult life.
Right. So even though she had a rough beginning, when she was living with Mrs. Reed, this person who was very abusive, she didn't have a good childhood. And then with all the stuff, and I guess she kind of felt the betrayal of Mr. Rochester. That's another thing that, was really bad. But in the end, she stuck it out and then it kind of paid off.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, now let's go to Hanny.
原来 Edward Rochester 年轻的时候被迫结婚，生活在痛苦中。尽管他恳求 Jane 留在他身边，可是 Jane 拒绝成为他的情妇，接着就逃离了。Jane 孤单一人又身无分文，幸好最后被好心的陌生人收留。结果呢，他们其实是他的表亲。不久后 ，Jane 又从一位失散已久的叔叔那边继承一笔财产，那就跟表亲们分享。这时候，他终于获得了长久以来他所渴望的独立跟归属感。老师们聊到他童年受虐，长大被爱人背叛，现在幸运之神终于站在他这边，不需要买乐透了。好，老师们有用到这个 abusive。abusive， 它可以形容是虐待的或是辱骂的，还有提到 betrayal 这个字 betrayal， 这个名词表达背叛、出卖或者是辜负。好，课文单字 flee 它表示逃跑、逃离，是个动词，那它的三态是 flee、fled。再来看到 eventually 这个副词表示最终、终于。那这边还有一个重点是 take in 的不同意思及用法。首先，它可以表达收容、收留，可能是收留动物也有可能是人等等。举例来说 ，Our neighbor took in a stray cat last week。我们的邻居上周收留了一只流浪猫。第二个，它可以表达欣赏、观赏，像是 They took in a couple of shows when they were in London。他们在伦敦时看了几场表演。第三个 take in 可以表达领会、理解，像是 I need more time to take in the situation。我需要更多时间来了解情况。好，那这句话课文中。
Okay, so now Jane has money. She has a family. She has her cousins with her. So she doesn't seem to need much else now. This could just be a happy ending, right?
Agree.
All right, well, but we still have a second part to this episode, so I guess there's more to come, and we'll be right back for that.
After months away, Jane felt drawn back to Rochester. She returned to find Thornfield Hall in ruins. It had been destroyed by a fire set by Bertha, who died in the flames. Rochester had been badly injured while trying to save her and was left blind and alone. Jane sought him out, and when she appeared at his door, he could hardly believe she had returned. Now they could be together as equals, both independent, both free to choose love.
All right, welcome back from the break. So far, I'm liking the story. We've got a little redemption for our girl Jane. She's got some better days, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's doing well. So let's find out how the rest of her life goes. After months away, Jane felt drawn back to Rochester. She returned to find Thornfield Hall in ruins. It had been destroyed by a fire set by Bertha, who died in the flames. That house is completely destroyed, so it's in ruins, is what it said in the story. And ruin as a noun means a piece of something that is left after it's been destroyed or very badly damaged. There might just be some small pieces left, and those are the ruins. Now, when we say something is in ruins, like this place is now, if it's in ruins, it is just left with only a few pieces and broken things left. It's completely destroyed, is what that means. So an example sentence, she told us that this ruin was once a castle.
Wow, okay, very dramatic. It's very sad for a lot of people, Bertha included, because she died still. But anyway, let's go to Hanny and see what she has to say.
离开几个月后 ，Jane 还是想回去找 Edward Rochester， 但是回去时发现那个庄园已经成了废墟，庄园被 Bertha 放火烧毁，他自己也葬身火海。好，那么单字 ruin 这个字呢，它可以当名词来表达废墟、遗迹或者是荒废、毁灭。那这个单字当废墟、遗迹来解释时，常常用复数形。那如果是用 be in ruins， 就可以表达建筑物或是城市等等，它变成废墟、毁坏了。那我们直接回到课文中。
All right, thank you, Hanny. Let's continue on with the article. Rochester had been badly injured while trying to save her and was left blind and alone. Okay, so he did try to go back for Bertha because she is in the attic. And she probably isn't, in a place where she can run really quickly. But that kind of, backfired onto him. He was injured during this. So to injure, our verb, it means to hurt or cause physical harm. And for example, you could say, try not to injure yourself during the match. That means he got really badly hurt.
Yeah, well,
he can't see.
He's blind. Yeah, he's blind, meaning, he cannot see now. So he's blind and alone, and now Jane has found him again.
I feel bad for the guy, I'll give you that.
Jane sought him out, and when she appeared at his door, he could hardly believe she had returned.
Well, I mean, technically he can't really see that she returns, so he'd have to...
Well, you'd have to hear her voice, I'd assume, and that would allow him to know it's her. Now they could be together as equals, both independent, both free to choose love.
That's true, because she's rich now. So he definitely knows, she's not marrying him for money.
But he's kind of poor now, and also he's blind.
That's true.
And why did it take for him to lose everything for them to become equals?
Matt, you're right. Okay, well, let's go and see what Hanny has to say.
故事提到 Edward Rochester 在试图救 Bertha 的时候受了重伤，那现在失明又孤单一人。Jane 找到他了，那他也不敢相信说 Jane 还真的回来了。现在他们可以用平等的身份在一起，双方都独立，可以自由选择爱情了。好，来看单字 injure。injure 这个动词它表示使受伤或者是伤害，常常用被动语态 be injured 来表达受伤。这边还有一个重点是 leave 加受词加受词补语的句型。leave 在这边是表达使处于某种状态，受词后面必须接补语，这个语义才会完整。那受词补语常常会用到形容词、现在分词 VING、过去分词 PP 或者是介系词片语。我们这边就造两个例句。He left his jacket unzipped. 他没拉上外套拉链。这边补语就用到了过去分词 unzipped。第二个例句 ，The news left her in complete shock。那个消息使她震惊不已。那这边补语是用介系词片语 in complete shock。我们接着回课文中。
All right, we're gonna wrap things up, but before that, we have a what do you think? Matt, do you think Jane was right to leave Rochester after his marriage to Bertha was revealed?
Yes.
Because you know what I want to say, but...
Well, I do think she was right to leave Rochester because even though, he was forced into that marriage, he also could have told Jane about that a lot longer, like a long time before they were actually at the wedding getting married.
Yeah.
So for her to find out that way that he had so many secrets that he was hiding from her, who knows what else he might have been hiding? And I think that's definitely a reason to leave and maybe even reason enough to not go back ever.
And not to mention, technically he didn't even tell her. His lawyer did.
That's right.
That's kind of sketchy. I agree with you. I think, okay, maybe in the end, if they really loved each other, they did find their way back together. But I agree. My girl Jane, get out of there before, before you're the next Bertha.
That's right. Okay, well, it's time for us to review the story again, but we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
One day, Rochester proposed to Jane in the garden, and while shocked, she accepted. However, their wedding was interrupted when a lawyer announced that Rochester was already married. His wife, Bertha, a woman who suffered from severe mental illness, had been hidden away in the attic for years. Rochester had been forced into the marriage in his youth and now lived in torment. Though he begged Jane to stay with him, she refused to become his mistress and fled. Alone and in poverty, Jane was eventually taken in by kind strangers who were actually her cousins. She soon inherited a fortune from a long-lost uncle and shared it with them. Jane finally had the independence and belonging she had long wished for. After months away, Jane felt drawn back to Rochester. She returned to find Thornfield Hall in ruins. It had been destroyed by a fire set by Bertha, who died in the flames. Rochester had been badly injured while trying to save her and was left blind and alone. Jane sought him out, and when she appeared at his door, he could hardly believe she had returned. Now they could be together as equals, both independent, both free to choose love.
最后，我们来复习今天课文里的单字文法。单字的部分有 severe 是形容严重的、剧烈的、严峻的 ；flee 动词表示逃跑、逃离 ；eventually 副词表示最终、终于 ；ruin 这个名词表示废墟、遗迹或者是荒废、毁灭。Injure 动词表示使受伤、伤害。文法的部分，我们第一个学到 while 加上 VING 或 PP 分词构句的用法。当 while 引导的副词子句主词跟主要子句主词相同的话，就可以把副词子句的主词省略，把动词改分词，形成了分词构句。主动是用现在分词 VING， 被动是用过去分词 PP。第二个学到 take in 的不同意思及用法。第一个，它可以表达收容、收留，可能是动物或人等等。第二个可以表达欣赏、观赏。那第三个可以表达领会、理解。再来下一个重点，我们学到 leave 加受词加受词补语的句型，而 leave 在这边表示使处于某种状态，受词补语常用形容词 VING、PP 或者是介系词片语。好，那以上是今天的讲解，同学们别走开，马上回来哦。
Welcome to Which One Fits, the game where we tackle confusing English words.
I'm more than ready for this one.
Today, we're going to sort out the difference between voice and sound.
But before we dive in, let's go over how the game works.
In Which One Fits, we'll read a sentence with a blank, and you have to choose between voice and sound.
So join us and challenge your English intuition.
All right, here's your first sentence. Her singing blank was so beautiful that everyone stopped to listen. Which one fits?
I think it's voice.
Yes, it is. Voice means the sound produced by a person when speaking or singing. Okay, next one. The wind made a strange blank outside the window last night. Which one fits?
That must be sound.
You got it again. Sound is any noise or tone, not necessarily coming from a living being. That was really impressive. All right, time for a breakdown.
First, voice is a noun that means the sound a person makes when speaking or singing. For example, her voice was so soft that I had to lean closer to hear her.
Right. Voice is personal and distinct. You can often tell who it's coming from.
Now, sound is also a noun, but it's more general. It can be any noise you hear, like music or nature. For example, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore was soothing.
Sound can come from anywhere, not just a person, and you often experience it in your surroundings.
You can think of it this way. Voice has a speaker and sound fills the space around you.
Exactly. It's clear once you get the difference.
And here's something fun. You can have both in the same sentence. he raised his voice to be heard over the sound of the traffic.
So a voice is a kind of sound, but not all sounds are voices.
Right. And now you'll never mix them up again.
Until next time, keep exploring.
Bye-bye.